So let's talk about this space that we're calling the land between. It's this desert space in life where we feel like we're trudging across a wilderness. And one of the characteristics that's typical of the land between is this monotonous sameness. You know what I'm talking about here? When you awaken to very similar challenges day after day after day, you find yourself having the same challenging conversation with the same challenging teenager. You find yourself once again climbing in a car to yet again drive to a medical center to undergo yet another round of tests. And in that space, our hearts can really be in danger if we give them over to a spirit of complaint. You see, you would think that nothing much would grow in the desert, but the land between, it's fertile ground for complaint. Now, in the early pages of our Bible, we're following a group of people, the Israelites. They leave slavery in Egypt. They're headed to the land of promise, but they are in the desert, in the wilderness, that land between Egypt and Canaan. And if my math is right, they've been there for about 2 years in the episode I want to read from today. And for 2 years, they have been eating this food substance called manna, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they are sick of this stuff. So let me read a couple verses to you. And these verses, I think you only read them correctly if you read them with a whiny voice. So here we go. If only we had meat to eat. Oh, we remember the fish we had in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks. Oh, the onions and the garlic. But now we've lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. They are sick of this food. And this riotous voice rises from their campground. We're sick of this stuff. And I just know that so many of us can find ourselves in that space. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. Jeff, we're sick of living in our in-laws' basement. I'm sick of getting to the end of the month and having to decide which bills to pay and which bills not to pay. I'm sick of medical test after medical test and still not having a clear diagnosis. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of going to bed at night and not knowing where my 17-year-old is. I'm sick of driving to a retirement home and having my mother ask yet again who I am. I'm sick of this. You know, personally, when I'm going through a challenging season, I don't have to invite complaint to show up. It's like it shows up automatically. I pull into my driveway after a very disappointing day to discover that complaint has moved into the guest room, unloaded its luggage, is running a load of laundry, and is looking through my refrigerator for something to eat. And something about complaint, it resists eviction. I think one way to try to evict complaint from our life is to invite another house guest. And that guest, I just want to call it trust. That as complaint tries to move in, it discovers that trust is already occupying the guest room and is also sitting at the empty seat at my dining room table. You see, trust evicts complaint. I think one of the most powerful prayers that we can ever pray when we're traveling through the land between is just the simple prayer that goes something like this. God, I don't like this space. I don't want this space. I don't even understand this space. But I will trust you in this space. Let me challenge you today to invite trust, to evict a spirit of complaint.
We all experience a wide range of emotions, joy at the birth of a baby, the thrill of a new adventure, sadness over a missed opportunity, and yes, there's anger. For some, it is sparked by something small and slowly grows over time. And for others, it explodes and takes over our lives. This was the case for my friend John, who told me he didn't know if he could push through his anger. He gave me permission to share his story. A few months ago, John got that dreaded phone call that his dad was being taken by ambulance to the hospital. The next morning, his condition worsened, and now his father was in ICU and on a ventilator. John wanted to be there with him in the room, but he couldn't be. So he had to sit outside in his car, in the parking lot, waiting, helpless and hopeless. It wasn't long before his dad passed away. John felt like he had failed his father. He told me he wasn't sure if he could ever get over the anger about not being there when his dad passed away. Have you ever felt anger like my friend John? You know, I have an air compressor in my garage, and it is equipped with a safety release valve. Basically keeps it from exploding. Here's how it works. Air goes into the tank, and once it reaches a certain level, you hear this sound. Psst. That's the release valve shutting it off. That is a wonderful sound. On the other hand, if the safety valve didn't exist and the tank overfilled with air, I can tell you, I would not want to be standing in my garage when it explodes. Anger is a natural emotion. In and of itself, it's not bad or unhealthy. However, it is a response emotion, a secondary emotion, so that where you would find anger, you will also find unresolved hurt and pain. And for John, he discovered that he had held himself responsible for his dad's passing. And once he began to forgive himself for something he couldn't even control, he began to heal. Whatever the reasons behind anger, restoration is possible. Here are a few ways to activate that safety valve that God has given to us to keep anger from turning into bitterness. Number one, when you start to feel angry, just slow down and take some deep breaths. And then at some point, secondly, journal. Consider writing your feelings down. This was key in helping my friend John process his feelings and begin healing. Thirdly, think before you speak. This may help you avoid saying something that you could regret later. Number 4, forgive yourself and forgive others. And finally, reach out for professional help if you feel you need to. That is a true sign of strength. Today, I invite you to receive God into your heart. He can bring you peace. Whatever the emotions you're feeling, whatever you're going through right now, your God, your Father, can give you healing.
This is Cecile Truver. She is the director of radiology at Bolingbrook Medical Center and has been at Bolingbrook for over 30 years. She never imagined that a crisis like the pandemic would arrive at her door.
So I think the hardest part of the pandemic was when the governor enacted the stay-at-home order. I did not know how it was going to impact my associates or our families at the time. It was very difficult. There was a lot of uncertainty I hadn't felt since 9/11. You came into work every day not sure if you were going to come home and bring this disease home to your families. Watching my team go into a room to take care of a patient, the questions were always reeling in my head. Did they do everything that they could to protect themselves? Your job is to protect your team. And it's not like you could work from home. You had to be there with them. They were in the thick of things. You had to show them you were there to support them at every turn. The biggest thing for me was my faith. My faith kept me going to work every day. I started every morning in prayer, just praying for protection for my team, for the hospital, and just making sure that we were going to come home every day safe and not bring this disease home to our family. That was the biggest thing. It was faith over fear every day. Just continual prayer and just making sure that we were doing our best to keep each other safe. I think the biggest thing I can remember, or most inspiring thing I remember, was seeing a patient go home after weeks in the ICU. All the associates gathered in the lobby to watch this patient go home, and what was really amazing was watching us all pray over this family as they received their family member back home. It was God's miracle to see this.
This is Michael Kindom, a chaplain at Hinsdale Hospital. He has worked at Hinsdale for 2 years. Just months before the pandemic, he moved from Glendale, California with his wife and newborn daughter.
When COVID hit, the fear was absolutely real. I was terrified to go into COVID patients' rooms. There was a lot of concern around the time about taking COVID home to our families, and this was a real source of fear for me and my family. Working as a healthcare chaplain during these last 18 months has taken a toll on me emotionally, physically, as well as mentally. I found that I needed help, so I looked to my system for the Employee Assistance Program and went through counseling sessions, and that I found really helped me. I recall at one time that I was paged to an emergency department in the Glen Oaks campus, and the patient was an elderly person who had COVID, and their family member was not allowed to go into the room. So we had offered to connect him virtually to his mother, and as I offered the final blessing for this lady, she was deemed to be not oriented and not alert. So this was mainly for the family. But when we put the device right before her eyes so that she can see her son in tears was saying his final goodbye. After the visit, her vitals started to go down very rapidly. 10 minutes after I had left the hospital, the manager of the emergency department gave me a call, and he said that she had passed away. She realized that this was her son saying goodbye, and she was able to pass away peacefully.
This is Sheila Short. Sheila has worked as a physical therapist at Hinsdale Hospital for the last 8.5 years. When the pandemic hit, Sheila was 5 months pregnant. Her friends and family all tried to convince her to stay home until after she gave birth, but she was driven to continue working by a strong desire to care for her patients.
Seeing patients struggling through different things, everybody kind of handling it differently. I knew for me, going to work was the right answer. I can also say that returning to work right after the maternity leave did not lessen the stress because now it was a whole different type of worry, where now I was worrying about nursing or, cuddling or snuggling with my son, what I was bringing home to him. Those were probably the biggest concerns for me. I think even to this day, Every single time I go into a patient's room, I think to myself, is my mask fully sealed? Is any skin exposed? Am I fully, protected with the PPE? And then I think to myself, can somebody else pick up my son from daycare so that I can get straight home to a shower or to throw my clothes in the washing machine? My source of strength was definitely my faith. My faith in God, my faith in medicine, my faith in my profession, and absolutely my faith in my coworkers and the first responders. I thank God every day for my coworkers, and especially one in particular. I have one coworker who is one of the many true heroes that has really directly impacted me. She has taken COVID patients head on from the very beginning. We had, I believe, 4 coworkers that were pregnant at the time, so all of us could not go in the rooms initially, and she continued to go in those rooms day after day. She actually lost 3 of her close family members within a 6-week period of time to COVID. And even to this day, she still takes the initiative to go in those rooms regularly to try to limit, as much as she can, the other coworkers' unnecessary exposure.
This is Lois Berg, a nurse manager at Bolingbrook Medical Center. She manages the recovery room, same-day surgery, and endoscopy department. She has been at Bolingbrook since January of 2008. At the onset of the pandemic, elective surgeries were halted, and Lois activated her staff to help the departments in greatest need.
There was a lot of anxiety. There still is anxiety caring for COVID patients because nobody wants to get sick, no one wants to feel lousy, and nobody wants to bring a disease home to their family and loved ones. But it's been a tricky time. We had to navigate nurses being uncomfortable, and we had to navigate having the right staff, the right number of staff to maintain safe levels of staffing in my areas, and then also rotate through our helping out the other departments. So our staffing challenges were real tricky at the peak of COVID. It was a difficult time for everyone. And nurses wanted to be safe, nurses wanted to keep their families safe, and of course we wanted to keep our patients safe. I have such a remarkable staff. We all felt a loyalty and a sense of duty to our patients and to the hospital. We love our hospital, we love our department, we love our coworkers. And I think I kept coming back just because I was in it with my staff. We were all a team. Our spiritual emphasis was on the land between. And we really felt like even now we're in the land between with COVID. But with such a wonderful group of faithful workers, I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I have the employees that I have. We pitch in, we help each other. My group of nurses do a wonderful job of helping relieve patients' anxiety, whether it's through prayer or holding a hand or a quick hug or doing something humorous just to help lighten the mood in the room. Our nurses here have a good sense of what's going to help the patient before they go in for a procedure.
We seem to be doing a lot of waiting lately. And I don't just mean the usual waiting we've all grown accustomed to, like the DMV or a car repair shop. We're waiting on the vaccine, waiting to see friends and family again, waiting for life to return to normal. If you're like most, waiting or living in that space between what was and what will soon be isn't easy. It can create anxiety, fear, depression. So what do? Easter gives us the answer. On a Saturday more than 2,000 years ago, Jesus' disciples knew the pain of being between what was and what will soon be. They felt the pain of loss, the fear and anxiety of watching their Lord and leader die on a cross. They had no idea what would come next. Little did they know, they were on the cusp of the greatest event in Earth's history. Sunday morning, Christ would walk out of the tomb he was laid to rest in just 2 days before. He would conquer our greatest enemy, death, and give us a living hope of eternal life. While right now, it may seem like a great chasm is before you, or that a high mountain stands in your way, the reality is, you and I have reason to hope. God has something better for us. Jesus, our living hope.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise.